Cali X Boxing here. It is Hump Day Wednesday, and this week's flying by with the holiday week. I know everybody is trying to get back from a 4 to 5 day weekend. I know how it is for holidays. So shout out to everybody out there back on the grind. Shout out my guy Mantis. It's fight week. Let's get it. Ortiz by KO. Jesus M in the building. Saludos to you. Sup to JC. And if you hear a difference in my voice, I'm suffering from some allergy stuff going on right now, as always. So it is what it is. Will Vergil sell out the arena? I hope so. And I love this fight. As soon as this fight was announced, and the delays have been killing me for this fight. And I'm hoping that Vergil gets back on track as far as activity level. He had the rhabdo again. Um, Stanionis is with PBC, so he's going to have activity issues with them to begin with. That's just how they work with that. He had the appendix issue. So these guys need to get back on track. That's one of the wild cards of this fight. How did both of these guys deal with the issues they've had health-wise and with inactivity coming into this fight? The interesting thing about this is the second time for both fighters. This is the second time they fought in 23 months. And for rhythm fighters, that's tough to deal with. They are both rhythm fighters. They like to get into a rhythm early, and they like to attack. And that's what makes this a fun fight. But the guy who is able to deal with the inactivity, the guy who is able to get into a rhythm quicker is the favorite in this fight. And Vegas is betting on that being Vergil Ortiz as a 4-1 favorite. And we'll talk about this matchup and the betting odds and all that throughout this week. And we'll start to talk about that today because we talk about fights. We'd much less rather talk about Rumorville and negotiations and purse splits and this guy's over here, that guy's over there. This is simply one of those fights where guys came together and made a fight. Simple as that. They came together and made a fight. And it's a fight that should have been made. The welterweight division has been atrocious, fellas. It's been atrocious for a while now. We've had the two top guys for a half a decade now fight each other. And finally, they've had the generosity to give us the fight. And they expect us to get on our knees and lick their balls for finally fighting the fight. No. You're not going to get over-congratulated for doing what you should have been doing for a half a decade now. I'm glad you're doing it. We've got a fight at the end of the month between the two top guys. We'll finally start figuring things out. But I'm not going to congratulate dudes and promotional companies and advisors for doing things they should be doing. You should be doing it to begin with. Ortiz with all the smoke. Meanwhile, in Atlantic City. And I'll talk about Boots, too. It's Boots fight week. Salute to D Nice. Vergil Ortiz, man strength, still growing year by year. And he's got to fight, fellas. He's got to fight more. He's got health is part of it. I had dudes telling me on Twitter throughout the week, oh, this guy should be granted exceptions because it's injuries. You know, it's injuries. It's injuries. So, you know, when it comes to Maul, he's got injuries. He's got physical injuries, mental injuries, and these guys have injuries. So, you know, we should be granting them exceptions to keep their belts. No, that's not how sports works. Injuries are part of sports. It's part of being an athlete. Part of it is getting your body ready, and some guys aren't built the same as others. Some guys, like a LeBron James, is able to play 2 decades with barely getting hurt at 6'9". I don't know what he's doing, but he's doing something right. Some guys, like a Greg Oden, they just disappear because they're not built that way to compete at that level. It's part of it. So what happens is if a tennis player gets hurt, they might have won all 4 Grand Slams or however many Grand Slams they got. If they get hurt, guess what? The rankings don't stop for them. The world does not stop for anybody. It keeps moving, and the ranking system should keep moving. You get hurt, it's part of it. I'm sorry, it's part of it. You get hurt, it's part of it. It's part of it. So the ranking system should not stop for anybody. And this is unfortunately part of what comes along with Vergil and what's coming along with Boots Ennis is inactivity, whether it comes to not being able to make fights or injuries when it comes to Vergil Ortiz. Stanionis, the appendix issue, it just is what it is. Salute to Team Batman Boxing. Vergil can't get overly aggressive, open up like he did versus Kavaliauskas because Stanionis will fight back with counters, and he will. This will be an interesting high-speed chess match because the thing with Vergil is dudes will try to put him in this caveman box. I've talked about it a million times. Oh, he gets hit. He gets hit. Oh, my God. A fighter gets hit. Oh my God. A fighter's getting hit. God forbid he's getting hit. And they'll see Vergil fight, these new age boxing fans, and they say he's getting exposed because he's getting hit. Yes, he's getting knockouts, but he's getting hit. The dude's got 100% KO percentage. He's got it against fighters like Herrera, Hooker, Mean Machine. He's doing his thing. Right? So when is Vergil getting hit? When specifically is Vergil getting hit while he's fighting? He's not getting hit when he's going in. He's getting hit when he's in. He knows how to work his way in. He knows how to maneuver in that mid-range, and that's a big deal. It's a big deal. It's a trait of a fighter with good head movement, good rhythm. He's a good rhythm fighter, and he's not getting destroyed working his way in. He's intelligently working his way in, and he's doing it through aggression. He's doing it through intellectual aggression. It's a smart aggression. He's not getting drummed up while he's working his way in. And when he gets on the inside, that's when he goes to work. And that's when he's going to catch some shots while he's working. But guess what? 90% of these trades, guess who's getting the better of it? His name is Vergil Ortiz. And this is part of his game. Part of his style is he's going to get hit, fellas. He throws at a high rate. It's easier not to get hit when you're an economical fighter. But as your work rate goes up, you're naturally going to get hit more. And this is part of his style. And part of his defense is offense. It's hard. When he gets on the inside, it's hard, all right, to want to trade with this guy. You don't want to trade with this guy, right? And this is the fun part about this fight is this is the first fighter I've come like we saw Hooker trade with Vergil, and we saw how that ended up. And Hooker was having success, but we saw how it ended up. This is the first fight where I see, and I'm just watching these two guys fight, watching footage, watching tape, and Stanionis does a lot of the things Vergil does well. He does them well too. I think Vergil does them better, but we're going to find out on Saturday night. These are those fights you live for as a boxing fan because stylistically, it's a great fight. Stylistically, it's a great matchup. This is a fight of the year type fight. And it's a meaningful fight. We start to figure things out. Let me get to a couple people in the chat first. Bruce Gas, appreciate you coming through. Iceman's in there. When someone punches him. Okay, I got you. Bo Mack called him a rhythm fighter in his fight versus Mo Hooker. He's a rhythm fighter, fellas. And the thing with the rhythm fighters is you need them aggressive. You need them active, is what I'm saying. You need them active. You need them fighting fights because if they're simply not fighting fights, it's going to take them a longer amount of time to get in the rhythm when they actually fight. He's a rhythm fighter. He's got high ring IQ. He does, but we need these guys to be more active, and injuries are part of it. Health is part of it. Let me look at this. This is the top 10 welterweight rankings, according to Ring Magazine. Errol Spence Jr., Terrence Crawford, 1 and 2. Finally, they're going to fight. Finally, these two guys are going to fight. So finally, we're going to get movement in the welterweight division in the top 10 in the same month. And this is a beautiful thing. Errol Spence Jr., number 1, Bud Crawford, number 2. We're going to figure out who the number 1 guy is, who the champion is that's currently vacant. Why is it currently vacant? Because number 1 and number 2 just have refused to fight each other for a half a decade. So finally, we're going to have a champion at the top, number 1, and they'll have a rematch. Boots Ennis is going to be fighting Roymond Villa, who is number 9. So 3 versus number 9, and then we're going to get 4 versus number 5. So on Saturday, we're getting 4 versus 5, 3 versus 9, according to Ring Magazine. The only top 10 welterweight fights we got all of last year, all of calendar 2022 were what? Bud Crawford, who is number 2, versus Evan, who is currently number 8. The only other one we got was Butayev was in the top 10, and he fought Emilio Estevez Stanionis last year, and Stanionis ended up beating him. Stanionis now at number 5. Now, put in the chat, who would you guys rank higher right now? Boots Ennis or Vergil Ortiz Jr.? Just put in the chat, who would you rank higher, Boots or Vergil? Boots or Vergil? Boots or Vergil currently? Because as I sit here, and we could talk about Vergil's inactivity, fair enough. 2 fights in 23 months, that is not good. Injuries are part of it. Like I said, health is part of it. But Boots Ennis hasn't been that much more active than that. Fought twice last year, fought twice in 2021, and he's doing it against pedestrian opposition. So as I sit here, I think the more tested fighter is Vergil Ortiz. He's been in there with better competition. He's more proven. People are giving Boots the number 3 spot based off of what? The eye test. And the eye test didn't pass. The eye test did not look good in his last fight in January against the Karen guy. You know, the Karen guy. And he didn't look good against the Karen guy. So as of right now, Saturday will give us a better idea of who Vergil is as a fighter, more so than Boots. Yes, Boots is fighting the number 9 guy. It's a guy in the top 10, but he's not Emilio Estevez Stanionis. Is a tougher fighter for Vergil. And Saturday once again proves that I think they're more aggressive with Vergil's career because they trust him more. His handlers trust him more than Boots' handlers trust him. And the PBC, for whatever reason, they're very careful with guys. And Boots Ennis is not a PBC fighter. That's what people don't realize. But he's sort of this de facto PBC fighter because he's only on PBC cards. And this is his first time headlining a Showtime card. It's first time. He's a 7-year pro. And this is the first time he's headlining a Showtime championship boxing card. So let's see who people have. Mantis has Ortiz. Vergil by a little bit. Vergil has a better resume. Vergil. Look at who Vergil is fighting versus who Ennis is fighting next. And this is what I'm saying. It's sort of this weird dynamic in that people, I think Boots passes the eye test more so than Vergil because people see it and they're saying he's not getting hit. He's just not getting hit. He's not getting hit that much. He looks like a versatile fighter, but the level of opposition can make that deceptive. It can make it deceptive. And when it comes to Vergil, he's been in there with guys and he's going to be in there with another guy. This is a high stakes fight, fellas. It's a high stakes fight. 4 versus 5, tough styles, and 2 guys who fight a lot alike and will want to take each other's head off. That's what we have with Vergil versus Stanionis. It's the type of fight that can take a year or 2 off your career. It's that type of fight. It's that type of fight. And we need more fights like this in boxing. We're getting fights like this in July. That's the good news. We're getting Vergil versus Stanionis. We're getting Inoue versus Fulton Jr. We're getting Bud versus Errol. And we need dudes fighting high stakes fights in their 20s, not in their 30s. Not in their 30s. It's okay to have them in their 30s, but we shouldn't have this high capacity of big fights in the 30s as opposed to guys in their 20s. And this is the good news about Vergil versus Stanionis is Vergil is starting to get to fights like this early in his career. Vergil is this generation Victor Ortiz. I don't think so. I don't think so. Time will tell. That's the beautiful thing about that. Time will tell, but I don't see it. I don't see it. I think there's a guy that we can pinpoint that could be this generation's Victor Ortiz, and it ain't Vergil. It ain't Vergil. I think there's another guy out there floating around, Mexican-American, but it ain't Vergil. Vergil's about that life, man. He's about that life. Um, I think he wants the fights. I think he wants top fights. So I wouldn't point to Vergil there. Boots has potential, but I don't think he's there yet. I need to see him step up his competition. And that's true. Is he's 7 years in. He's 7 years in, fellas. People are treating these dudes like contenders. When things go wrong, they treat them. I noticed this when it comes to boxing fans, modern day boxing fans. We talked about this with Jared Anderson. You're critical of Jared Anderson's fight on Saturday. You're critical of what he did. You're critical of him getting hit with a lot of straight lefts. You're critical of him getting hurt twice in the fight and saying, I don't know about his punch resistance. Some red flags have popped up. Some red flags have popped up that he wants to retire in 3 or 4 years. Those are some red flags. But when you bring this up, they start to say, oh, yeah, but Callis, he's young and he's a contender. Okay, fair enough. He's a contender. But why do we have twice per year fighting contenders now? Why? Why are contenders fighting twice per year? And on top of that, people are out there telling me when things are going great that he's not a contender. He's not. He's not a prospect. He's not a contender. He's a guy who, I shouldn't say contender. They say a prospect. He's a twice per year prospect. People are telling me he's a prospect. He's a prospect. He's a prospect. But why are we seeing twice per year prospects? Those guys back in the day were fighting 5-6 times per year. So when they had a bad performance, the good news is you see them 2 months from now. So it's okay. We don't have to overreact to every little thing. I don't know when I'm going to see Jared Anderson again. I don't know. So I got a twice per year prospect, and every time something negative happens, people call him a prospect. But when things are going great, he's not a prospect anymore. He's already a top 10 heavyweight. He's already a guy who can beat every heavyweight. He's already a top contender. Which is it? Which is it? You can't be over here when things are going good and over here when things are bad. No. You can't take the thing about twice per year prospects is we have to overreact to everything. So you can't take the good that comes with overreactions and dispatch of the bad. It is what it is. So when it comes to Boots Ennis, what's evident? It's evident that they've been trying to go the vacant route with Boots Ennis, right? It's been evident that he's had fights that he can make within the top 10 up to this point, but they want to go the vacant route. And fair enough. And the other thing with the Boots team is they don't have a contract with Showtime. Boozy Ennis said this in January. We don't have a Showtime contract. We don't have one. We're not locked down to Showtime. Well, fair enough. Why aren't you shopping deals then? Why aren't you DAZN, ESPN, Showtime? Why are you so loyal to Showtime? And then you're going to complain about you can't get certain fights because you're loyal to Showtime. Well, stop being so loyal to Showtime. Be loyal to yourself. How about that? I'm starting to not be as empathetic of some of these fighters who are complaining about not getting fights because they have opportunities to get certain fights. Have y'all heard about Devin Haney versus Shakur Stevenson, the back and forth with negotiations? Have y'all heard about this in the chat? The back and forth with negotiations, the offers, the sign the contract. Well, send me a real offer. Sign the contract. Well, send me a real offer. And this is what I talk about, the back and forth that a lot of people are in love with, that I'm not. I'm forced to talk about it because it's in the boxing news cycle, but I'd rather just talk about the fights. But have you heard about this? I see a stoppage late from Stanionis. It's possible. At this point, I feel Vergil has a better upside than Boots right now. Fair enough. I see a late stoppage from Stanionis. And that wouldn't shock me. It wouldn't shock me. Vergil Ortiz is a 4-1 favorite. So it would be an upset, but would it really be that big of an upset if Vergil loses on Saturday? I don't know. I think I'm higher on Stanionis than a lot of other people, I guess. I've got Vergil and Boots both getting wins, really good fights though. And this is another thing I talk about when it comes to Vergil and Boots is people keep telling me and telling me these guys are young, let it develop, let the fights happen over time. We don't need to see Vergil versus Boots right now because it's not smart. Let these guys get their careers going. Why are we talking like this? Why? Boozy in it says we don't have a Showtime contract. We can go anywhere. Well, fair enough. Go fight on the zone and go fight Vergil. Right? Why not make the fight in your 20s? Why? Why is that too early? Why? Why is it too early for Vergil versus Boots? Why? They're fighting on the same date. Bud and Errol are busy with each other. Then they're moving up to 154. Are we just going to sit here and wait around for these belts to become vacant and go in a vacuum? And then Boots has to get a belt or two, and then Vergil has to get a belt or two. I'm told all the time when I talk about undisputed and there's an undisputed process, and then you got to get all the belts. But I'm told all the time that the belts don't matter. The belts don't matter. Calix, you don't understand. The belts bring value to the fighter, not the opposite anymore. Well, fair enough. Go make the fight then. Why are we waiting for this fighter to go clean up this side, that fighter to go clean up that side? This was the pitch from the Spence crowd for 5 years is we're going to let Spence take care of his side, Bud go take care of his side, and then we'll consolidate all the belts, and then we'll fight. And then the same people will tell me, well, the belts don't matter. Which is it? Which is it? Which one is it? Because I'm with whatever one gives me the fights. How about that? How about that? Whatever one gives me the fights. So for that crowd, my response would be, why are we waiting around for Vergil to get a vacant belt and then Boots to get a vacant belt? How about we just make the fight? How about that? According to you guys, the fight's just as big without the belt, so make the fight. Yeah, but Callis, we got to wait till they get in their 30s because it only makes sense to marinate fights. Why are we talking like that? Why? Why do we need to wait till in their 30s? Boxing is littered with great fighters who simply fought the fights in the 20s when you're supposed to be fighting the fights when you're in your physical prime. Why aren't we doing that? Yeah, but he's young. He's 26. What do you mean he's young? He's 26. These dudes are in their mid-20s. Fight the fights. Why can't I get Vergil versus Boots? Boots isn't tied down to a network. His father said that. Make the fight. They're fighting on the same date. They can both win, and then they can both fight each other later this year. But Calix, it doesn't work. Why doesn't it work that way? Why? Why doesn't it work that way? If Boots wins against Vila, he beats the number 9 guy. If Vergil beats Emilio Estevez Stanionis, he beats the number 5 guy. And let's throw an upset in there. Let's say Emilio Estevez Stanionis beats Vergil. He beats the number 4 guy. So then you got 3 versus 4. And guess what? Stanionis has fought on Showtime before, so make the fight. It's easy, right? 3 versus 4. We got 1 versus 2. They're going to be busy with each other. So how about 3 versus 4? No, Calix, doesn't work that way because we got to wait for those belts to become vacant, and then we'll do the fight, and then we got to marinate it for a little while so it's bigger. And then, we know guys in their 20s can't fight each other because it's too early, and we got to – why? Explain it to me. The bar has never been lower in boxing. And as great as this year has been, the crazy thing is it could be better. How can it be better? Guys can be more active. Top 10 pound for pound and fought a combined 6 times so far this year. Top 10 heavyweights in the world that fought a combined 5 times this year. So guys could be more active for one. And if dudes really want to be stars, if they really want to be superstars, if they really want it, because I'm starting to believe that they don't. I think it's a generational thing. I think a lot of guys want the good that comes along with it, but they see the bad that comes along with it too, and they don't necessarily want that, and they shy away from it. But if guys really want to be superstars, a baton doesn't need to be handed off. You can simply go out there and become a star on your own. It takes activity. It takes doing tough things. It takes staying in the gym, shorter training camps, more fights, fighting fights, fighting meaningful fights. And guess what the best part about this is? You can lose and still become a star. You just need people emotionally invested in you, is what you need. And the issue that a lot of fighters don't seem to understand right now is they look and they're like, man, why am I 30 and I'm not getting this adulation? Why am I this far along in the game and nobody seems to care if I fight? Watch on Saturday. Watch on Showtime. Watch what their ratings do on Saturday for Boots versus Vila. Watch those ratings. They're not going to be good. And I'm sure Boots Ennis is going to sit back and say, well, why don't people want to watch me fight? And part of it is he's not getting people emotionally invested into his career. He's buried on undercards. He's buried on undercards. Super talented guy, just popping up twice per year on undercards. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, why would people think this is a great long-term plan for a talented fighter? This dude is a talented fighter. Talented fighter. I would venture to say he has top 10 pound for pound ability. Yeah, I'm there with you. But at what point, we're 7 years in, at what point do we try to start proving that? At what point? At what point do we try to get people emotionally invested in his career? They're movies like that. Like I can watch it and I say, like, that looks like a good movie. You know, it's good, but I'll never watch it again because it didn't get me emotionally invested. At this point in his career, dude, I gotta be honest, and I don't want to be this way. I want to be a fan, but if I miss a Boots fight, I miss a Boots fight. That's just where I'm at. Vergil on Saturday against Stanionis, I'm invested. I'm invested. Why? Because he's got a fun style and he's done it against good opposition up to this point. And this is the number 5 guy in the division he's fighting. And it's a guy who could possibly take his head off. And as a boxing fan, I like fights like that. I like fights going into where I like Vergil. I like what's going on with Vergil. I'm emotionally invested at this point. I'd like to see Vergil be successful. I'd like to see Vergil be successful on Saturday night. But as they do the ring entrances, I'll start to get that feeling in my stomach like, I don't know if he can do this. This is a tough fight. He's putting a lot on the line here. He's not sitting around waiting for vacant belts to pop out. He's not sitting around waiting for Bud and Spence to drop these belts into a vacuum. And then he'll just gobble one of them up and then play that game to where I'm the A side. You know, you guys need to come to me and then do that whole charade. He's fighting a fight. He's fighting a real fight. Real fight here. And this is what real fighters do. Boots who? Is he still in the fight game? And this is what I'm talking about. Like, and it's not a disrespect to Boots Ennis, is we like Boots Ennis as a fighter. I do anyway. I'll speak for myself. That guy's got a lot of upside. He's got a lot of potential, high ceiling. He can do a lot of things in there. But at some point, I got to see him back up this stuff that they've been building up. And once again, it goes back to packaging, right? Packaging. He's the best welterweight we've seen pound for pound, the most talented since the 80s, stuff like that. He's the best pound for pound talent we've seen since Roy Jones in the 90s. And I hear this stuff, and I'm like, all right. I'm looking through his resume, and I'm like, all right, we're 6-7 years in, fellas. At what point do we start to try to back that up? Oh, but he can't get the fights, and he can't do it. Why not? And if not, how about we do this? How about we fight more? How about that? If you're fighting 4 minutes in a fight, he fights a 4-minute fight because he knocks him out in a round and a half. Why not pop back up 2 months later? Yeah, you don't understand, Cal. It's because they got to make a fight and then they got to do a long 10-week training. Why? I see Boots on Twitter all the time. Ran 26 miles today, waiting for fight announcement. Ran 24 miles today, waiting for fight announcement. Sparred 20 rounds today, waiting for fight announcement. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, they could fight fights. He's not, his dad said this. Boozy Ennis said, we are not tied down to a network. So how about you get out there and do some shopping? Pick the top available guy and mow him down. Do what Tim Tszew's doing currently. I can't get the fight I want. Guess what? I'm just going to mow that guy down. That's a quick one to make. Let's cut out the noise. Let's go knock him out. Golovkin did this. I can't get the fight I want. Let me go mow that guy down. And he'd be doing this. But instead, we're going to hear the excuses. We can't fight that fight now because it doesn't make financial sense to make Vergil versus Boots now because there's no belts on the line and these guys are in their 20s and they still need work. Why? Why not? Make the fucking fight. How about that? How about that? You guys told me belts don't matter. So make the fight. I'm with whatever. Whatever you guys want. They matter or they don't matter. Whatever. Whatever brings me the fights. That's what I'm for. Whatever. Whatever. Just make the fights. Boots is signed to Showtime to mine. He's not. He's not. His dad said he's not. He's not signed to anybody. Boozy Ennis said it. Go look it up. Boozy Ennis. We are not signed to Showtime. They have a gentleman's agreement. How many times the power brokers... Tim Tszyu had a gentleman's agreement to fight Jermell Charlo next. How'd that work out? So go out there and do some shopping. I don't know. I'm just tired of the sitting back and whining. Oh, this guy can't do this and he can't do that. Did y'all see this clip right here? Let me see if it'll play for me because the clips have been giving me trouble. But let me see if we can play this. This is David Benavidez Sr. Let me text my wife back real quick. Hold on one second. And this is David Benavidez Sr. And he's being asked about the whole Canelo situation. So let me see if it's up there. Let's see. And it is up there. Okay. So this is David Benavidez Sr. It's a 38-second clip. Here we go.
I congratulate Canelo for signing with PBC. I think that's a good move. At the end of the day, we're happy that he's in the same promotion that we are. I don't think we're fighting Canelo. I'm going to let that go. You know, we got to stay ready. And who knows what's going to happen in a fight or two. We just have to be ready for those opportunities that come by. And I don't know what's going to happen. But I like that fight. And I congratulate both of them to land that fight together. And I think it's going to be an exciting fight.
Let me play that clip one more time.
Congratulate Canelo for signing with PBC. I think that's a good move. At the end of the day, we're happy that he's in the same promotion that we are. I don't think we're fighting Canelo. I'm going to let that go. You know, we got to stay ready. And who knows what's going to happen in a fight or two. We just have to be ready for those opportunities that come by. And I don't know what's going to happen. But I like that fight. And I congratulate both of them to land that fight together. And I think it's going to be an exciting fight.
Okay, so I want you to notice the shift. And let me get rid of this real quick. I want you to notice that shift. And the shift is when he says something like, I don't know what's going to happen. And I heard him a couple of times this week say, I don't know who we're fighting next. I don't know what's going to happen. And I've heard him say, we don't pick the fights. We just fight the fights. And we're waiting for the PBC to tell us. So the translation here is, and I'm just going to translate what he just said to people and not translate English to Spanish. What I mean is I want to just translate, cut through all the crap, translate what just happened. And translation there is, we don't make the fights. We're waiting for our marching orders from Al Haymon. That's the translation. We have no control over our career over here. We have non-disclosures. We can't speak about this publicly. We can't speak out against the PBC publicly. We have non-disclosures. We have no control over our career. And we're waiting for our marching orders from Al Haymon. That's it. And the reason I bring this clip up is, what have you been hearing here from my channel, from D-Styles channel for months now? It's that. That's what we've been hearing. That's what we've been telling you. They have no control over what they do. They have no control over their career. They've signed it away. Anything you hear from the dude with all the gold chains, the slick back hair, acting like a used car salesman out there on a million YouTube channels, anything you hear him say is null and void. He has no power. Al Haymon is sitting there back there calling the shots. He's got his chessboard set up, and Benavidez is going to go wherever Al Haymon tells him to go on the chessboard. It's as simple as that. It's that simple, fellas. It's no more complex than that. They have no control. None. Zero. And I don't feel empathetic for these dudes. I don't. They've signed away their power. They're not getting the fights they want. They have no leverage. And I'm supposed to sit back here and feel sorry for these dudes. And my empathy is very much run out when they try to come out publicly and act like they've got all this control and everybody's ducking them. And it's just not the case. It's not the case. I'm tired of these fighters coming out and whining and gnashing their teeth. Oh, why can't I get the fights? Why can't I get the fight? How about you do this? How about you go to Cleveland, Ohio? I think that's where Al Haymon lives, and just keep knocking on his door. And you get him to open the door. And you say, why is it that the fighters, okay, you advise several of us. Okay, you advise several of us in and around this weight class, and you're lining other fighters that you advise up ahead of me to get the fight that I want. Why is that? Why is that? Is it possible, Al, that you're using me for leverage to get this dude over here for a 3-fight deal to subsidize all of your shitty boxing? Is that possible? Is that possible? Is David asking these questions behind the scenes? What I hear now is it seems to me like a phone call was made from above, all the way at the top, all the way down. And he's telling these guys, look, this is what it is. This is what it is. I got Canelo now, and you're going to follow my marching orders. And that's it. That's it. You have no say in this. None. You have zero say in this, fellas. Charlo, maybe Spence. Who knows? Maybe I can lure Bud over if he beats Spence to fight Canelo. You're going to sit back. You're going to wait. Why? Because I told you so. Because I told you so. And I think the Benavidez, at least Benavidez Sr., in the interviews I'm seeing, he's starting to eat some humble pie. And the Benavidez temporary fans, I think they're starting to put this together subconsciously because the bass is not in their chest anymore. The bass isn't in their voice. Their chest isn't out anymore. I think they see how this is playing out. We got this change of tune. We got this 180. But the reason I bring it up is you'll see these dudes start to complain publicly. Why am I not getting the fights? Why am I not getting the fights? Why am I not getting the fights? Do you know why Benavidez isn't in the position of power? Even when it comes to other fighters that are being advised by Al Haymon in and around his weight class. Do you know why he doesn't have that leverage? Because he simply hasn't been putting in the work, fellas. I like Benavidez's fighting style. I want to see Benavidez be successful. I want to see as many American superstars as possible because it's good. It's good for boxing. It's good for me as a content creator. I have more people to talk about. But the issue is these dudes aren't putting in the work, and they're sitting back and they're waiting for a Canelo shot and thinking that, okay, I'm going to get the baton if I beat him and I'll beat that dude. And we've talked about why that doesn't work because they're not putting in work on the front end. Benavidez doesn't need Canelo to be a star. He can do it on his own if he simply put in the work. If he got people emotionally invested. You fight Caleb Plant and it doesn't crack 100,000 buys and you marinated that fight for 5 years. And you're out there bragging about that. Fight the fights. There's a blueprint. There's a formula that works decade over decade over decade over decade over decade. Boxing history is littered with it. Dudes we never would have thought been superstars become superstars. Why? They simply fight the fights. And they find ways to get the fights out of thin air. And if you can't get the fights you want, you stay busy. These dudes aren't doing that. And then they're going to sit back and gnash their teeth. I can't get the fights I want. I just can't get the fights. I'm being shut out. I'm being shut out. I see Boots. Why aren't people emotionally invested in Boots' career 7 years in? Why is this dude finally, for the love of God, this dude is finally headlining a championship boxing card and he's 7 years in and you're telling me he's a pound for pound talent? Why is that? Why is that? If Boots Ennis walked into any living room in America, they wouldn't know who he is. They would not know who he is. David Benavidez, the same thing. They would not know who the dude is. And these are supposed to be some of the most talented boxers in the world. Nobody cares. They don't care. I see Benavidez Sr. out there. And he's like, we're glad Canelo's aboard. He's got his marching orders, or he's waiting for them. And he knows how this is going to play out now. He knows. He's been put in this place from up top. It's how this works. It's how this works over there. And I just hope the marching orders are Morrell Jr. I hope so. Benavidez versus Morrell Jr. will be a phenomenal matchup. Phenomenal matchup. And once again, this is when you start to get movement in a guy's career. If Benavidez goes from Plant to Morrell Jr., then we start to say, all right, this dude's looking like a real fighter. He's looking like a real fighter now. Number 3 guy in the division to the number 4 guy in the division. He's looking like a real fighter now. He's doing what Tim Tszew's trying to do at 154 and corner those belts and say, you can't go anywhere. You can't go anywhere. I just beat the number 3 guy, number 4 guy. I'm the number 2 guy. You can't fight anybody else but me. But I doubt that the chessboard's going to look that way based off of the track record of the PBC, based off the track record of Benavidez's team. But I hope he fights Morrell Jr. because the first guy that will come out and say, I love that fight is this one. And the first guy that will come out and be congratulatory of Benavidez for beating Plant and Morrell Jr. in the same year and say, this guy is a possible fighter of the year is this guy. And when that starts to happen, you start to get that movement. All right, this is a different dude now. This is a possible star. This is a boxing fan's favorite fighter and is a guy who can translate to the casual market because he's got a favorable style and he's marketable. That's when you start to get movement. But we need those fights to happen. The Munguia fight's not going to happen. The Berlanga fight's not going to happen. But why are we even worried about those fights? If you're the Mexican monster, like you're being built up to be, then those fights should be unacceptable. Munguia and Berlanga are down here compared to Benavidez. That's what I'm being told. So those fights should be unacceptable. They should be beneath Benavidez, right? Morrell Jr. should be up here. He's number 4 in the division. Benavidez number 3 in the division. It's a meaningful fight. But what I'm starting to hear is this fight may be too dangerous for Benavidez. And people might not be saying it, but I know they're thinking it by the things they're saying. I'm starting to hear people think that Morrell Jr. is too dangerous of a fight for Benavidez at this point. Why? Because it could mess up the bag. Well, if he's the monster, why are we that worried about the bag being messed up by a dude 9 fights in? Why? Why is that? Why is that? But for me, it goes back to simply make the fights. Wherever they may be, make them. Because what starts to happen is things start to happen accidentally, out of thin air. When you take fights from paper and put them into reality, things you never thought would have happened happen. Maybe Morrell Jr. becomes this star. Maybe Benavidez is the Mexican monster. Maybe he is. And if you beat Plant, Morrell Jr., Canelo at some point in 2024, you're that dude now. You're that dude. There is no denying it. If you go on a run where you beat those dudes, there's your blueprint. You want that respect? Real boxing fans are not going to move the goalposts on you. I will not move the goalposts on you. If you go on a run like that, you're that dude now. You're that dude. You're the guy. You're the guy undisputed. You're the guy at 168. You're the guy on the pound for pound list. You're the guy I'll be showing up to his fights. You're the cash cow, possibly. That's how it works. That's how this works. So at the end of the day, I'm just tired of these dudes complaining. I'm tired of Boots' team complaining. Go out and make things happen. Go make them happen. Benavidez is not getting a Canelo fight unless he signs an extension with the PBC. I thought he already signed one. They can only put the work in that Uncle Al allows. He controls everything. That he does. He controls everything. Lost his belt on the scale. That he did. 175 is too tough to get a belt. And that's why his fitness framed down to 168, man. It is tough. Those two Russians control those belts at 175, and a lot of guys don't want to go up there. They don't want to go up there. Fighters on PBC are basically puppets. Al told them, shut the F up and act neutral, act natural. I know these phone calls are happening. I know it. I know they're happening. Shut the hell up. Shut up. Notice how things changed right before Canelo announced the Canelo announcement came with the PBC 3-fight deal. Notice how things just started to change on what guys were saying. Agreement? No, we don't have an agreement. No agreement. No agreement. No agreement. That tells you a lot there. No agreement. We don't have an agreement. Benavidez is saying the day before Canelo signed a 3-fight deal, I have no agreement to fight Morrell Jr. I've never even heard of this agreement. Well, apparently you don't listen to your promoter's interviews. If you've never heard of an agreement, you had an agreement with Morrell Jr. That's what we were told. What happened? Then Morrell Jr. sends out that press release calling him a coward, and then Canelo announces his 3-fight deal. So what am I to read into that? And then Sampson sort of disappears out there. Dudes got their marching orders. They're getting them. They're getting their marching orders. Shut the fuck up. And I'm going to tell you what to do. And I'm going to tell you when you're fighting. I'm going to send you the contract. You're going to sign it. And then I'll tell you when and where you show up for the press conferences. And then you get in the training camp. And then we'll announce when the fight is, when you show up to weigh in, and you're going to follow the marching orders. That's how this works. That's how it works. Shout out Haplo. Al Haymon controls PBC, and Benavidez is simply not a draw. PBC needs to make that money back that they guarantee. Canelo and Benavidez can't help do that. You know, in Canelo versus Benavidez is going to be a big fight when it happens. But Canelo versus Charlo is also a big fight. And Canelo versus the other Charlo is a big fight. Canelo versus Spence would be a big fight. Canelo versus Boo Boo Andre, as little as people know of Boo Boo Andre, that would still be a big fight. It's just the nature of this. And Benavidez is going to wait his turn. For whatever reason, Al Haymon has set the board up this way. For whatever reason, this is how he likes to operate. And it's going to happen on his time. And Canelo's like, I'm sure he's sitting back there saying, you're going to give me 150 over 3 fights plus pay-per-view upside, whatever. I'm not afraid of anybody on your roster anyway, because I wasn't even afraid to fight Dimitri Bivol. So whatever you want, Whatever, fine. And I think Benavidez is the only guy right now who doesn't know his place in this. Who am I going to fight next? You hear him saying it now. I don't know who we're going to fight next. I don't know who we're going to fight next. Before Canelo signed with the PBC, is we got a 3-fight deal. We got Morrell Jr., we got Plant, we got Morrell Jr., and then we got Boo Boo, and we got possibly Charlo. You heard specifics. Now those specifics have disappeared. R.I.P. Antoine Eccles. That's right. R.I.P. to him. I thought boxers are in control of their career. Yeah, apparently not this one. Canelo's PBC contract announcement proves Sampson was lying the whole effing time. F that guy, man. But we already knew he was a liar. We knew he was a liar, and that's why I tell people to trust the track record. Is for 5 years he was saying he was working diligently on the Plant fight. Then after they make the fight, he brags about marinating it for 5 years. And marination has been a process in boxing for over a century. I mean, Jack Johnson's team used to marinate fights. If you read the history books, I was reading that yesterday when I was reading up on 4th of July fights. And there used to be fights on 4th of July every year. I mean, shows everywhere throughout the country. But you read and you learn that marination has been a part of the process for a century. But the issue now is we have a lot of competition with other sports. We've got Dana White over there taking the September 16th date from boxing. He's got 3 Mexican champs now. And if you lose the Mexican-American audience, it is not going to be good. It's not going to be good. The Mexican-American audience carries American boxing. It just does. So you need to be on it now. And the less you marinate, the better it is for boxing fans. But on top of that, the better it is for fighters overall. Why? Because we're creating more stars through fights. That's the way to do it. It's always been the way to do it. Always. Callum could beat Beterbiev. That would create an interesting dynamic at that weight class. I don't think so. I think Beterbiev is going to run through him. I think he's going to run through him. And I think we're going to have those belts separated because of the whole freaking Ukraine-Russia situation and the WBC and Bob Arum agreeing with the WBC. And we know why he agrees with the WBC is, for whatever reason, Bob doesn't want Beterbiev versus Bivol. That fight could make money in Montreal. It just could. He doesn't want to do it. He doesn't want to do it. So he's going to act like he agrees with this. Better odds in UFC. So when it comes to Haney versus Shakur, it's just another situation in which I watch it and I'm like, I can see both sides of it, right? I can see why Haney's sending Shakur an offer to where Haney gets 75 and Shakur gets 25%. And I can see why Shakur looks at that as being disrespectful. But at the same time, when it comes to Shakur, sometimes, and I don't want to say what I would do in that situation because I simply don't know. But I know I've been in a similar situation in business in which I had to take a loss on a certain deal in order to look long-term and say, I'm going to be better off long-term if I just take the short end of the stick here on this one. And then long-term, I'm going to be better off by taking this one. By taking the hit on this one, I'm going to be better off long-term. Now, it's different with boxing because dudes are getting hit in the face, right? And they want to get paid financially what they feel they're worth per fight because they're getting hit in the face. Fair enough. But what I would tell you is what I would like to see Shakur do. Let me just put it that way and say, I'm going to take 25%. Why? Let me just throw this out there. If you take 25% on this and you win the fight, which everybody feels Shakur would beat Devin Haney, right? We all feel that way. We all feel Shakur beats Devin Haney. So you take 25% in a fight you feel like you can easily win if you're Shakur Stevenson, because I'm sure Shakur Stevenson feels he can easily beat anybody. And you have all the belts in one swoop. In one swoop. This isn't winning a vacant belt and then a guy who has trouble getting fights having to go unify against another guy and pulling teeth to get that fight, and then trying to unify with another guy, pull teeth again, try to unify, pull teeth again. It's a situation Regis Prograis has been in at 140 for a while, right? Certain guys are going to have issues getting fights. Shakur Stevenson is one of them because dudes don't feel like the risk of fighting him is worth the reward, even though he's selling 10,000 plus twice now in Newark. They still don't feel he's worth the risk. They still don't feel he's worth the risk. So you have an opportunity here to, I'm going to take a loss on this one. I'll take the 25%. I'll take it. I don't feel right about this, but I'm going to take it here. Why? Because I can get all the belts and the lineal in one shot. And then guess what? I'm calling the shots from here going forward at 135. Point blank, period. So it's worth taking the loss. That's what I'd like to see Shakur doing in this situation. But once again, it goes back to fighters are going to complain about not getting fights, and then they're not going to see an opportunity when it's right in front of them. They're not willing to take certain risks. They're not willing to be slighted here and there in order to get where they want long term. And that's what I see with Shakur in this situation. It's clear at this point. Haney is treating him like a guy who has no leverage. And why is he treating him like a guy who has no leverage? Because out of all the possible fights for Haney at 135 and 140, Shakur is the toughest. So he's going to throw him an offer with poison pills that he feels like Shakur's not going to take. So I would have liked to have seen Shakur call his bluff and say, I'll take it. 25? What did Haney take the first time against Kambosos to become undisputed? It was somewhere around the same range. I think Haney got like 25%, somewhere around there, to fight Kambosos, and he had to go across the globe, and then he had to agree to a rematch clause. Certain guys are willing to take those losses for the good of long-term gain. And Haney was willing to do that earlier on in his career. And he's come out of that undefeated, undisputed. And now he can sit back and call the shots. Now he can sit back and take deals from Bob Arum and then deals from Eddie Hearn and sit back and enjoy the fruits of his labor, enjoy the fruits of taking the short end of sticks now. And now he's got the long stick. Pause. Now he can sit back and say, offer him 25%. See what he does. See what he does. That's the fight we at least want. So just see what he does. I already know what he's going to do. See what he does. And he doesn't, surprisingly, right? Shockingly, he goes out on Twitter and says, I'm not taking that deal. And Haney's looking at it like, good. That's what I wanted anyway. I can now say I sent you a contract. Now get away. And then they'll go on to easier fights than that. Not easy fights, but easier fights than that. Possibly a Lomachenko rematch. Possibly a co-promotion with Tank, although that's not going to happen given Tank's track record. And then a possible fight with Regis Prograis. Who knows? Who knows? But he has options. And since he has options, he's the one who's able to call the shots. And Shakur is sitting back there with no options. He simply doesn't have any options, fellas. He's arguably the most talented fighter in the world, pound for pound. I mean, he's already there to me. He's already one of the most talented fighters in the world. He's one of the most unbeatable fighters in the world in and around his weight class. But he doesn't have options. And that's one of the reasons he doesn't have options is Haney's looking at it like he's not that marketable. And he's talented, and we probably lose that fight. Subconsciously, he's probably saying that to himself. And because of that, you get a 25% offer. I would have liked to have seen, I'm not going to say what I would have done in that situation because I'm not in that situation, but I'm telling you, like I've been in business situations like that where I just had to take a loss, knowing where I'm going to be 3 to 5 years from now if I'm successful with taking this deal. And Haney was in a similar situation last year with Kambosos, and he said, I'm way better than this dude, but guess what? I'll take 25% or whatever, and I'll agree to go over there, and I'll agree to go over there again. Then I'll agree to fight Lomachenko for undisputed, and I'll come out of that undefeated, and I call all the shots. And guess what? He's there. Good for him. Good for him. He took risks. He has the reward. I want to see other fighters take risks. It's why I'm not empathetic with the Boots Ennis for not getting fights, going the vacant route, taking it easy, fighting twice per year, not shopping around when he doesn't have a locked-in contract with Showtime. It's why I'm not sympathetic for Benavidez for not getting the fight, because he simply hasn't been putting in the work up to this point. Sorry. He's the guy who had an opportunity to walk away from the PBC and make this easier for himself to negotiate a Canelo fight, but instead signed an extension. Am I supposed to sit back here and feel sorry for dudes not taking risks with their career? I don't know. Take loss Shakur to beat Haney, then he has leverage with belts. And once again, I understand it. I understand that Shakur is looking at this on the face value at its surface and saying 25%. What is this? I'm Shakur Stevenson. I know I destroyed this dude. That's how this Shakur speaking. He's like, I know I destroyed this dude. I know I'm better than this dude. I know people already had me on pound for pound list. So why would I take 25% from this dude? Why? I'm not taking 25% from anybody. And remember 2 years ago when Jamel Herring had issues with things going on with purse splits, and Shakur saying on Twitter, the receipts are there. Business is business. Business is business. Well, in this situation, business is business. Haney has all the leverage. Shakur has none when it comes to this. He doesn't have any. He doesn't have any belts. Pound for pound list, that's fine. Devin's on that too. He doesn't have it. No leverage. I got other options over here. I got other options. It's like the dude telling the girl, I can go out there and get 10 girls like you. You know, maybe you should act right. It's just how this works sometimes. Yes, Shakur Stevenson is great. Do I think he deserves 25% against Devin Haney on the surface? No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. But guess what? It's not how things work. He has leverage. You have none. Take it or leave it. It's a take it or leave it deal. I'm sure. Or at least send a counter offer for 30%, 35%, but they probably see it as a non-starter. 25, that's not close. We deserve 50-50. And Haney's going to tell him to go to hell. That's how it works. I'm just saying I would have liked to have seen Shakur Stevenson call that bluff and see how that goes. I'm pretty sure I would have known. I know how that would have worked out. But I would have liked to have seen Shakur Stevenson call that bluff. The fight with Herring was a mandated, mandatory, different set of circumstances, not the same. And I understand, but there were issues with that purse split. If you go back, there were issues with that purse split. Let's see. Haney needs those belts because he's not the industry supported fighter. Haney only means of leverage is standing on those belts. Haney Bank is bigger than Shakur's bank of ABC, Disney, ESPN. Got to spend money to make money. Exactly. Take loss to beat Haney. Then he has leverage with belts. Yeah. And I'm not saying that Shakur is wrong here by not taking that. It's not what I'm saying. All I'm saying is I would have liked to have seen him call that bluff and agree to 25% because dudes have done it. They've done it. Mayweather had a similar split with De La Hoya. So did Pacquiao. They wanted to fight. I'm not saying Haney's as big as them. I'm not saying he has as much leverage as of those guys. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I want to see fighters take some more risks in order to make fights, and it's going to advance their careers further. You see it with Haney. He is the specific example of that. Dudes on here a year and a half ago were calling him crazy for going to Australia and agreeing to do it twice. They were calling him crazy to take that top rank deal. Crazy. They were calling him crazy. And Haney and his team were saying, look, we'll take the short end of the stick in 2022 because I know where I'm going to be in 2023. And look at him. Halfway through 2023, he's the one calling all the shots. It's a risk. He's a risk taker. And I like seeing the risk takers get rewarded. Not sure if y'all bought this up, but Vergil Stanionis is getting low love as far as promotion. What a shame this is going to be a bloodbath. And it is, man. This is high stakes stuff. It's 4 versus 5. In my opinion, it's 3 versus 5. I have Vergil ranked ahead of Boots in my divisional rankings. That's just me. 3 versus 5. And 2 rhythm fighters who want to take each other's heads off. And this is a type of fight that can take a year or 2 off your career. It just is. It just is. These guys are going to be looking to destroy each other. They're going to be looking to destroy each other. And the thing about rhythm fighters is they need to be active, and they haven't been active. They've both fought twice in 23. This will be their second fight in 23 months, both of them. So I want to see which fighter. There are a lot of similarities coming in, not only with style, but career trajectory, and health. One with appendicitis, one with rhabdo. There's just a lot of wild cards coming in, and it makes it a trickier fight than normal to pick because once again, we don't see enough of fighters to know exactly who they are. And it's the truth with both of these guys. 2 or 3 years ago, if you would have asked me who Vergil is, I say it's definitive. He's going to be here 2 to 3 years from now, but 2 to 3 years later, he's not there. So can he get that momentum back? He's a 4-1 favorite. I think Stanionis can do everything Vergil can do, just not as good. Just not as good. And I talked about earlier, Vergil, they try to box him into this caveman fighter, and he's not that. There's more layers to his game. He's a high IQ fighter. He gets hit, but he gets hit on the inside. He doesn't get hit going in, and there's a difference. There's an art to what he does as a pressure fighter. He's not this caveman pressure fighter. There's an art to what he does. He's smart going in. And once he gets in, that's when he's going to be getting hit, but he's hitting more. He's getting the better of 9 out of 10 trades. He just is. And that's what's special about Vergil. And not only that is, I think what Chauncey is getting at here is it's odd seeing an entertaining fighter with marketability, with what should be a built-in fan base, Mexican Americans, Mexicans, California, Texas. It's odd seeing that not get the type of notoriety it should, especially in a fight of this magnitude. You're fighting a top 5 guy in your weight class. You're fighting a guy who could possibly beat you. It's that type of fight. It's a high stakes fight. It's an important fight. It's a fight that could thwart your legacy and who we thought you could become. So it's weird seeing a fight like that sort of fly under the radar. I hear from people who have been going to his past 1 or 2 fights that the crowds haven't been what they've expected from this guy. They expected him to be a star by now. But what it goes down to, once again, is inactivity. It's only his second fight in 23 months. And sure, it's health. It's a health thing. It's injuries. Some guys can help that. Some guys can't. I don't know what category that falls under when it comes to Vergil. But what I know is it's part of it. It's part of it. The world doesn't stop. The rankings don't stop because a guy gets hurt. It's just part of it. So I think that's why sort of it's flying under the radar. I've been saying win or lose or draw in this fight, both will suffer some repercussions from the violence we're about to see. And that's why I like to see fights like this rewarded. Because if we want more fights like this, we need to see them rewarded. We need to see them rewarded. And we'll be talking more about this fight going forward tomorrow and Friday, because I love that fight more than Boots versus Vila. And one thing on that is, don't expect a talented fighter like Boots to have two back-to-back pedestrian performances. So for the people out there who think that Vila as an 11-1 underdog could possibly pull an upset off against Boots, I wouldn't count on it, because I think we're going to see a locked-in, focused Boots in this fight who's going to want to perform well and possibly try to stop Vila in this fight, since he couldn't get the stoppage against the Karen dude. So it's just the way it is. That's just the way it is sometimes. I think Vila is in wrong in this situation, but props to him for taking this fight. And I think he's a legit top 10 guy at the weight class, but wrong place, wrong time for him. And I'll be touching more on that Thursday and Friday as well. On that note, I'll be on D Styles channel tonight at 7 p.m. Central. So lock in on his channel tonight, and we'll be talking more about stuff like this. I'm out. God bless. Peace.